provide the spiritual guidance to all the people in all the world. And Prabhuji is traveling across the world to share his realizations with everyone. So Prabhuji is today going to take a 3-day series session, which is going to happen on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday in the center only, starting at 7 p.m. And then on Saturday and Sunday, our normal Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam program also, Prabhuji is going to have a special class on Ramayana. So with all that, I will welcome Prabhuji. Let's all welcome His Grace Chaitanya Prabhu to Chaitanya Prabhu to Singapore by loudly chanting Haribol! 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 Ajay Prabhu, link.
Hare Krishna. Can you connect? Just take it away. वाईफाई है यहाँ पे, यहाँ पे आया है but it's not come. It's connected. Send it to me. Or you can directly type in and connect from here also.
I'll send the link to you. Just click on that link.
Just click it. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Can you put it on this side if possible? I like it right this side, yeah.
Just connect.
You have to make me a co-host or something so that.
Co-host. You connected, bro?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll do it.
Let me see. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Okay, thank you. Is it on actually?
Is this mic on?
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare.
Wait. On PUBG. It's on.
It's on, Prabhu.
Okay, it's visible there. Fine. Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjalishalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namine. Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Desha Tarine Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya eva cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
I'm grateful to be here with all of you today. And
Zoom, can you make him as co-host? You are a host.
yeah,
Then he can do the recording.
start recording or I can.
Recording in progress.
Okay.
Okay, done. Okay, that has got stuck over there. I'm sharing the screen, but Okay, there's some. My body has jet lag. My computer has some lag also over here. Okay, it's coming a bit slowly. It is this visible to all of you, or it's not so very clear? Okay, if I. Oh, it's taking a lot of time. Is it Zoom is causing the lag? Because it's almost 30 seconds since I. Okay, if I write something now. I already drew something. Is it the internet connection is poor, or it's going to be a bit of a problem? I drew this about 20-30 seconds ago. Okay. Do you have Wi-Fi here? Because I'm on my this thing, hotspot here. Okay, anyway, I can start the class, so you can disconnect the Wi-Fi. Okay. Can you disconnect this? It's connected over here. Sit down. Okay, so over this 3-day series, we are going to discuss one of the very revealing sections in the Srimad Bhagavatam. This comes in the 4th canto, toward the end of a narrative that is that is actually one of the few symbolic narratives in the Bhagavatam. So this is the story of King Puranjana. And toward the end of the story of Puranjana, I'll briefly tell the story. It's connected? Let's try. Just give us a minute, please. Still this, okay, at least it's a little faster. Okay, now 1, 2, 3, 4, okay, not that bad. Still there is a lag, but 1, 2, 3, okay, not bad. So I'll be writing and drawing some things over here. And so here this is the story of Puranjan. So we are at the very end of the story. At the end of the story, there is a depiction of a conversation between the soul and the Lord. The Lord has appeared and the Lord is speaking to the soul. So this is the soul of King Puranjan, who was a powerful king, who it is described that in his previous life he became attached to a woman who was a queen. He married her, he had children. Then he was attacked by an invader and he died. And in his next life, he becomes a woman. He becomes Vaidehi. She's married to a king. And then that king dies. So now she has become a widow. She is alone. And it is her soul that is approached. She is lamenting at the death of her husband. At that time, the Lord appears in the form of a Brahmana. And then the Lord speaks to her certain words of wisdom. And those words comprise this conversation. So this is the 4th canto, 28th chapter, text 53. It goes on till the end of the chapter. 64 and 65th is Narad Muni is telling the story to King Prachini Parishad. So that's a summary. So this section from 53 to 64 is what we will be covering in the next 3 days. And we'll discuss some of the verses. So I'll be taking these verses as starting points. And we'll try to overall understand, what is the dynamic of bhakti? How does it work in our lives? So the 3 sessions which you are going to have. So basically, say we are here in this world. You could call this the material world. And this has its ups and downs. And above us is the spiritual world. Here at the top, there is the Lord. And we are functioning in the world. So, the 3 sessions which we are going to have discussion. First is that how do we perceive the Lord in this world? Now, does the Lord really exist? Does the Lord really care? How does knowing the Lord and trying to connect with the Lord? So, how do we perceive? Normally speaking, a person doesn't suddenly turn and look up at God. Most of the time, we are trying to face the challenges of life. And while facing the challenges of life, we look for resources. What can help me? And that's when we may sometimes look up. So initially, even when we look up, it is not because we are primarily interested in what is up. We are interested in what is in front of us. And to gain help in facing what is in front of us, we look up. So the first level will be that we appreciate the Lord's presence in the world, the Lord's kindness, the Lord's love in this world. Then after that, so this will be a 3 sessions we are going to discuss. I'm giving a quick map of what we are going to discuss. So once we appreciate, then we start connect. Okay, let's go forward here. When we appreciate, then we connect with the Lord. So connect means, okay, how do we practice bhakti? How do we develop a relationship with God? So we'll talk about different degrees of connection, from mixed devotional service to pure devotional service. And then towards the end, eventually what happens is that we target the Lord. Target doesn't mean we want to shoot the Lord, not target practice. But target means we make the Lord the target of our life. Even when we connect, it may be so that the Lord can make my life better in this world. So it is an incremental process where we start developing our relationship with the Lord till Vasudeva Sarvamiti. Normally, this takes Bahunam Janmanam Ante, as the Bhagavad Gita says. This takes many lifetimes, but it all begins first. We appreciate that God is here, God is playing a role in my life, God is helping me. So let me try to have a relationship with Him. And not just a relationship, it can be one relationship among many relationships. And eventually, He becomes our most important relationship. So this is how our discussion over the next 3 sessions is going to flow. And we'll discuss 2-3 verses from the series that we're going to discuss as we move forward in this development of thought as it relates with the Lord. So this is the acronym ACT. A-C-T. Ultimately, Bhagavad Gita or even the Bhagavatam, it's not just abstract philosophy. It's a philosophy which is calling us to do something. In the case of Arjuna, it was to raise his weapons and fight for Krishna. In the case of Parikshit, it was sit and focus on remembering the Lord. But even that is an action. Both were actions to connect with the Lord, to become absorbed in the Lord. So ultimately, Shastra is not just an abstract theory. It is a worldview that calls us for action. And it is that action that we will try to understand. And we see how the discussion of the philosophy can inspire us to come closer to the Lord, to act in a way that we come closer to the Lord. So, let's look at some of the verses over here. So what happens over here? Let's quickly. Is this visible to many of you? So here, it's not Vidya, it's Vaidarbhi is the king. Vaidarbhi is the queen. The daughter of King Vidarbha is called as Vaidarbhi. Her husband, King Malayadwaja. So Malayadwaja goes to the forest and Malayadwaja performs meditation, he enters into dhyana and he departs from the world. So in this way, King Malayadwaja attained perfect knowledge. Because in his pure state, he was directly instructed by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. By means of such transcendental knowledge, he could understand everything from all angles of vision. Basically, he became enlightened. And then he left his body. Now, she had gone with him to the forest. She had been a dedicated wife. But now she was all alone in the forest. Now, when Malayadwaja had dedicated himself to the Lord did not abandon those whom Malayadwaja cared for. So the Lord came there to help his wife. And the Lord came in the form of a Brahmana. And so the daughter of King Vaidarbha continued as usual to serve her husband, who was seated in a steady posture, until she could ascertain that he had passed away from the body. So he had a very peaceful departure from the world. And although the departure was peaceful, still for her it was traumatic. Once she knew that her husband had renounced the world and come to the forest. Ultimately, it is the final stage of life. But still, bereft of her husband's company, she felt exactly as a deer feels upon being separated from its mate. And she was all alone. And she started shedding tears. He says, "Oh, my husband, please get up. Please come back. I cannot live without you." And as she was lamenting in this way, my dear king, one Brahmana. It's interesting the way the Bhagavatam puts it. Let's recite the verse. Tatra purvatara kaschet. So Tatra, at that particular time, when she was lamenting, purvatara, from the past, kaschet, from some distant past, Sakha Brahmana Atmavan. So a Brahmana who was a Sakha, a friend of that particular king, Atmavan. So he was a very wise person, Atmavan. Santavayan Valguna Samna. So Santavayan means to pacify. So Valguna is sweet, soft words. In the Gopi Gita it describes Madhuraya Gira Valguvakyaya. So Krishna has a sweet voice and he speaks soft words. So this Brahmana has come here and very with sweet words. What is he doing? Samna, he started speaking. Tam aha rudatim prabho. Tamaha, this person, he aha is to speak. Rudatim means to cry. So she who was crying, he started speaking to her. And now she's all alone in the forest and this Brahmana has come. She'll actually have questions. Who is he? So, Brahmana vacha Katvam kasyasi ko vayam. So, in general, it is when our emotions are getting very strong. At that time, telling the emotions, don't get angry. Don't feel so sad. Don't get so agitated about this. That doesn't work. One of the powerful ways of managing our emotions is not instructing but questioning. It means, if say our child has come from a park and child is very angry, don't be angry. We say that doesn't, okay, what exactly are you angry about? What happened? Now, even then the child may be angry and not be able to answer. But generally, okay, what has got you so angry? So ask questions. Questioning makes us start thinking. So the Brahmana, when he comes, he's asking, Katvam. So who are you? So who are you? Whose wife or daughter are you? Who is the man lying here? Shayano yasya shochasi. Shayano yasya shochasi. So, okay, I'll keep the Sanskrit and English both. Whatever you prefer. So, Who is this person for whom you are lamenting? Janasi kim sakhayam mam. So do you recognize me? I am your sakha also. I am your friend. So previously it was said that he was a friend of the husband. But now it is said he is her friend also. So who is this Brahmana? It is the Lord. It is the super soul who is manifesting externally. Yena gre vichachartha. So, yen agre. So, vichachartha means you have consulted me in the past. You have turned to me in the past. This is not our first meeting. Sometimes when we meet someone, and it's a little embarrassing if that person recognizes us and we don't recognize that person. And then, okay, but then that person may help us remember. We have met before. You remember that particular place we met, that particular time we met. So, yena agre vichachartha. So in this way, he starts the conversation by telling, I am your friend. And we have met before. So for all of us, we all face some situations in life when we start questioning what is going on. Now, whatever we may have held to be of value, when it is shaken or taken away from us, at that time we start questioning. So basically, death, especially the death of someone whom we are very close to, that is a time when we start, at least for a brief while, thinking of some bigger questions in life. What really matters in life? See, for all of us in life, if this is a life journey, everyone has to have something that is the artha for them. Now, artha has two meanings. One artha is meaning, one artha of artha is artha. So you can say it's meaning, the other is value. Like we have artha mantri, finance man, dharma, artha, kama, moksha is its value. So for all of us, there is something that is of value for us. So it could be our business, it could be our looks, it could be our reputation, it could be our family, it could be a loved one. And that is why when something bad happens, in local language sometimes say anartha ho gaya hai. When we say, in philosophical language, when we say anartha, it refers to kama, krodha, lobha, moha. And we'll talk about the relationship between the two. But when in normal language in Hindi say, bada anartha ho gaya. Have you heard this word? Bada anartha ho gaya. What it means is essentially that which we consider to be artha, that has been taken away, or that has been shaken, that has been damaged. So all of us have something which we consider to be artha. And when that artha is endangered or is lost, that's what makes us think, what am I to do at this particular point? How am I to deal with this? So that is the time we may start looking upward. Now, is there someone up there? Is that person really, is whatever is up there, is that in charge? And so when artha, it is taken away, there are two ways we can go. One is we can go toward anartha. Now anartha does not necessarily only mean lust, anger, greed. Anartha essentially means that which has no value, but we think it is of great value. See, when there is a greed or when there is anger, so what happens is, at that time, controlling the other person, putting the other person in their place, causing pain to the other person becomes the most important thing. Even if it means it's going to hurt our relationship, even if it means it's going to ruin the relationship, even if it means that it's going to ruin our reputation in society. So alcoholism, it's anartha. But what does it mean? At that time, the person sees a bottle. They will be going to be a corporate meeting. And they are in the meeting, And their boss is talking with them, and in their mind, the boss body changes into a bottle of alcohol. So, what does anartha do? Anartha, it basically distorts our value system. So, anartha essentially means that which has no artha, we start thinking it has huge artha. So, that which is of no value or very low value, that we start thinking it is the most important thing. So, either when artha is taken away, we can go into anartha. Some people sink into bitterness, some people start going to hatred. Or at that time, we can move towards paramartha. So, when artha is taken away, at that time, either we can go to anartha or we can go toward paramartha. And that is a decision which we all have to make in life. Now we will talk about, does this decision have to be made only when the artha is taken away? We'll talk about that a little later. So generally it works in two ways. Quickly I'll just mention it. When artha is there are broadly two ways, two situations when we may start thinking of alternatives. There could be devastation. That means the artha is just taken away from us. Or there can be disappointment. Disappointment means that okay, I got this, but it is not all that good. Now I wanted to become famous. I wanted to win this award, win this competition. I wanted to achieve a big house. I wanted to get this much bank balance. I got it, but there's nothing all that great about it. It's nice. So this devastation means what happens is the opposite of what we expected. So our expectation was this way, and the event turns out to be opposite. The other is disappointment means our expectation was this way, and the event that happens, it turns out to be the same direction, but it turns out to be much smaller. It's like, somebody makes a relationship the whole focus of their life. People have this idea that, oh, is there a perfect match for me? Like Mr. Right or Miss Right for me? And they say, okay, if I can just find a perfect partner, then my whole life will be happy. As they say, like love is blind, but marriage is an eye-opener. What that means is, when there is a romantic hormones going through, we imagine that person to be something very, very special. Now, even that person is good, and nobody can live up to our expectations of what they are going to do. So at that time, when whatever we had pursued as artha, either it is taken away or it does not live up to our expectations. That is the time either we can go upward or we can go downward. That when the artha doesn't work out, there's nothing in it. Just forget it all. Or we can go towards paramartha. So it can go either way. But we can go towards anartha or we can go towards paramartha. So, for example, somebody achieves a success in a career, and I achieve success in a career, if I find it disappointing, I say, actually, there's nothing of value in this world. Why work hard at all? Just forget all this hard work. Just, you can drink and enjoy life and forget everything else. So, when Prabhupada went to America, there was a counterculture at that time. And the counterculture was basically that life, all the goals that society had set for them, get an education, get a job, have a family, get respect and reputation in society. What's the point of it all? It doesn't make it. It doesn't have any value. It's just a show. I don't want all this. And they just rebelled against it all. So now here, fortunately for her, for this queen, the Lord is coming and the Lord is guiding her at that time. The Lord is going to take her towards paramartha. So essentially, when things in front of us go wrong, At that time we look up. Now when we look up, there are broadly 3 options before us. We can call this by the acronym FAN. That whoever is up there, either that person is favorable to me or that person is against me. Or the third option is that person is just neutral. That person doesn't care, and as a variant of that option is that person is non-existent. So ultimately, these are 3 options we have. Either someone up there is there, someone, something, whatever overarching that is there and that is favorable to me, or that is just doesn't care about me, or is against me. So now among these 3 options, we have to choose one of the other options. Now we may not consciously think about this, but when we function in the world, some people say, okay, even if God is there, God is not going to help you. You have to work yourself. But the idea is, even if He is there, it doesn't matter. So we all have some or other of these worldviews with which we function. When I started practicing bhakti, or 30 years ago, that I started sharing with all my relatives and friends. So one of my uncles, when I told him about Krishna consciousness and Bhagavad Gita, he said, I believe in God. He's happy there, I'm happy here. So the idea is, I don't need him and he doesn't have to enter in my life. I don't care for him. So basically it's like, God is neutral, I don't care. So essentially, the journey that we are going to go through, if you forget everything from this series of classes, this one image is what we're going to come back again and again in session. See, initially for us, in our life journey, the world is big for us. The world is what is artha for us. And God, even if He exists, He's small for us. But as we grow spiritually, the world becomes small for us and God becomes big for us. So this is the essence of spiritual advancement. Spiritual advancement doesn't mean we reject the world as Maya. It doesn't mean that we abandon the world. It just means that we understand that there is a reality bigger than this world. And not only we understand it, for us, that reality becomes bigger. So how will this happen? That is what we are going to discuss. So here the Lord is intervening and the Lord is guiding her to go from artha towards paramartha. So before we talk about that journey of going from artha toward paramartha, let's look at some of the ways in which, some of the things that may obstruct us in going toward paramartha. Some of the ways in which we might miss out on moving towards paramartha. So in 4.10, see 4.78 in the Bhagavad Gita is Krishna descending as Avatara Sambhavami Yuge Yuge Dharma Samsthapanarthaya. Then 4.9 is Janma Karma Chame Divyam. And 4.10 is Vitaraga Bhaya Krodha Manmaya Mamupashritaha Bahavo Jnana Tapasa Bhuta Madbhavamagataha. So Krishna is telling that if we want to turn towards Him, Manmaya Mamupashrita, we want to take shelter of Him, become absorbed in Him, then there are 3 things which we need to give up. Vita, Raga, Bhaya, Krodha. So we look at this Raga, Bhaya, Krodha in terms of, so overall for our entire course, this is the diagram which you're going to come back to. We were going to see how we can go along this journey by which we can make God bigger. And then for each session within that, we'll have one diagram which will summarize more or less what is going to be there in the session. So this is 4-quadrant diagram. In general, there are many worldviews in this world. But different people have different philosophies, different religions, different ideologies, whatever it is. But within that, we can say that there is this world or the world of matter, the material world. And there is the other world or the spiritual level. It's called this material level. Now, this is real, this is unreal. This is real or unreal. So broadly, the worldviews that are possible, they can be put in these 4 categories. This world is real and there is another world that is real. This world is real and there is no such thing as another world. Neither is this world real nor is the other world real. And this world is real or this world is false, but there is another world that is real. So basically, the thing which Krishna is telling us to give up, so we call this as 1, 2, 3 and 4. So this is the worldview of Raga. This is materialism. This is the worldview that is most present, prevalent right now in the world. So Raga, we can translate in English as desire. So I'll talk about these as in terms of 4 Ds. So this is the first worldview. At this, all our desires are caught in this world. And then if our desires are caught in this world, then there is no need. This world is real, that's all that matters. Then there is neither this world real nor is the other world real. This is a very dark worldview. This is called as nihilism. Nihilism may not be a very common word, but Prabhupada refers to it shunya or voidism. So this is the worldview of bhaya. This is, in English you can translate dread. Not just fear, but it is like an existential, very deep-rooted fear. Fear can come and go, but dread is something which lasts for a long time. Sorry, this is not dread. This is despair. And this is not bhaya. It is actually krodha. So krodha, why? Because at this point the person thinks nothing has any value at all. Now, everything that anyone has told me, it's all false. The religious people told me that there is a God, they are lying. Materialistic people told me that you earn money and you get position and fame and you will be happy, they are also lying. So everybody is basically a liar. This is the worldview of great skepticism. So this is where there is no hope left in life. Among all the worldviews, this is the most dark worldview. You can't really live here. So this is nihilism. Then this is the worldview of impersonalism. Or so nirvishesha shunyavadi paschatya deshatarine. So paschatya was largely raga, materialism. Nirvishesha and shunyavadi is impersonalism and voidism. So impersonalism, often it is called as monism. Monism means only one substance is real, only one thing exists. And they think the only reality is spiritual reality. There's one non-differentiated Brahman is there and there is nothing beyond that. So this is the worldview of, this leads to bhaya. Why bhaya? Because it is, the whole world is simply maya. And whatever looks attractive in this world, it is all simply meant to trap us. And because it's all meant to trap us, the more you will try to enjoy, you'll get trapped. So always be careful. Don't be attracted to anything in this world. And because the other world, there is not, although we say the other world is real, but there is really nothing attractive to focus on in that world. So the primary emotion becomes great fear. live in constant fear of this world and its entanglement. And then, so Krishna is saying, Vita, Raga, Bhaya, Krodha. We need to go beyond these three worldviews till we can come to the worldview of Bhakti. So Bhakti, Vita, Raga, Bhaya, Krodha, Manmaya, Mam, Upashruta, Bahavo, Jnana, Tapasa, Puta, Mad, Bhavam, Agataha. So this is the worldview of Bhava, or based on that particular words, Bhava or Bhakti. So this is devotion. And we can call it, Prabhupada uses this word in the early Back to God magazine, devotionalism. Or if you just want to stick to the ism, or you just call it Gita worldview, Bhakti worldview. So we want to go from wherever we are, none of these worldviews, we want to go towards the devotional worldview. And there can of course be many variants in the specifics, but the devotional worldview is that this world is real. At the same time, this world is not the ultimate reality. This world is real, and there's another world which is a bigger reality. And it is not that by running away from this world we go to the other world. It is by functioning in this world, by acting through this world, that we go to the other world. So now, among these four worldviews, now many people often say that, they say, philosophy doesn't interest me very much. And when students also studying, how many students will take philosophy as elective when they want to, unless they are very specially interested. Not many people do that. But although we may never have consciously studied philosophy, but what happens is everybody has some way of making sense of life. Now, one simple definition of philosophy, or what is the need of philosophy basically? See, philosophy it helps us to make sense when things don't make sense. So, in the normal course of life, okay, if I study, I get good marks. If I work at my job, I get a raise. I seek a relationship and I get some reciprocation. Then I don't feel the need for philosophy. But when things don't make sense, when I am pursuing some artha and I get that artha, then what is the need for going toward any philosophy? Okay, I am getting it, that's fair enough. But when we pursue artha and what we get is anartha, that's when things don't make sense. And that's when we start looking for philosophy. So now we all have faced situations in our life to some smaller or larger degrees when things don't make sense. And we have found our own ways of dealing with it. Most people, when one object of artha in this world goes away from them, they either start chasing that same artha again, or they start chasing some other artha. Like if, say, somebody's loved one suddenly dies because of a sickness, then they may decide, okay, I just didn't have enough money. Otherwise, I would have taken them some other country, I would have given them great treatment and they could have been saved. Then that person may decide, I am going to spend my life earning enough money so that we will never have any financial problems. So, well, that's one way of dealing with it. And yes, sometimes money can make a difference. Money is also artha. But that is not necessarily going to solve a problem. Somebody loses a loved one to cancer. They may say, okay, I'm going to get into medicine, I'm going to do cancer research, and I'm going to find a cure for this. That's a noble thing to do. But what has happened is that one artha was lost, they made that particular thing their artha. And that's nice. Different people can choose different things as their artha. But still, even if we cure all forms of cancer, we're not going to cure death. So, when the artha is lost, at that time, we need to turn towards Paramartha. So, among these four worldviews, just replacing one artha with another material artha, that is not a lasting solution. That is what most people do. See, and now on the other hand, thinking that there is nothing of artha, that's a terrible worldview. There's no artha in this life, there's no artha in another life. There was a European existentialist philosopher, Alberto Camus. He was quite intelligent, but unfortunately, he was living in this second quadrant. So he said existence is suffering. And the more you try to alleviate the suffering, the worse it becomes. We say, hey, this seems like Bhagavad philosophy. To some extent, dukkha ushadam tadadapi dukkham, as Prahlad says. But then his conclusion was, for him there is no conception of paramartha. So he said, therefore, the only philosophical question worth asking is whether to commit suicide today or tomorrow. This other philosopher, he said, every time I pass by the window of a third-story building, I have to resist the temptation of jumping out. I know what kind of life is that? Occasionally when people are very frustrated, they may have, what is the point of living at all? Often suicide, there can be many specific sociological causes for it. But it is when suicide is basically the triumph of despair over hope. See, we all need some hope in our life, something to look forward to. But in this worldview, there is nothing to look forward to. This is the darkest worldview. And when we talk about worldviews, some people may adopt a worldview philosophically. That means they actually think, analyze, and they arrive at a worldview. Like earlier I said that when we talk about a worldview, the worldview can be arrived at through philosophical deliberation. That means the person thinks, analyzes, and comes to the conclusion of that. But sometimes that worldview might just be their psychological orientation, psychological disposition. That's how they start. That's how they think. Like, if you ask people, is materialism your worldview? Many people may not even know what materialism means. They may be materialistic living, but that's just the way their mind is functioning. They're not really thought about the worldview, but their mind is going in that direction. So like that, this nihilism, the worldview, nothing matters. But that is not a worldview that many people have consciously chosen. But psychologically, many people, especially in the West, youth are living like that now. That many people feel, what is the point of living at all? And they say, okay, life is, there's a whole movement which says we don't want to have any children at all. Why? Because this world is so much suffering, our planet is so much burdened by humans. I don't want to bring one more human being into this world who's only going to burden the planet and who's going to live a life full of suffering. Now it's called the antenatal movement. Natalism is having children, antenatal movement. But people need to have someone to give affection to. So in some of the biggest cities in America, in LA, San Francisco, among white Caucasians, the number of pets is more than the number of children. You say, I don't want to have children. But then people have someone they want to lavish their affection on. So nobody can actually live nihilistically. You may claim to live like that. You may say, I don't want to have children. But you have to have someone, some artha we have to have. So then they'll adopt a pet and that will become their artha in life. So nihilism, if somebody is going there, they have to come out. Some artha you need to find. Something of me, even if it is not paramartha. See, sometimes we equate Rajoguna and Tamoguna. Sometimes we say Rajoguna, Tamoguna are all bad. From a spiritual perspective, that is true. But from a material perspective, Rajoguna is much better than Tamoguna. Because in Rajoguna, a person at least has some asamartha. I want to take care of my family. I want to have this job. Paramartha, when Tamoguna, a person has no material artha also. I just want to play video games all day. I just want to drink. I want to do drugs. So some artha is better than no artha. In that sense, we can say even the worldview of materialism is better than the worldview of nihilism. Now, the worldview of impersonalism, that is more reactionary. Reactionary means what? That when a person pursues some artha in this world, and when they end up getting a lot of suffering. So, when they end up getting a lot of suffering, they think that actually, oh, this whole world is full of suffering. I just have to stay away from this world. And there is some, imagine there is some reality, but the way to get to that reality is just completely declare everything in this world to be false. Now again, see, the other world is quite far away from most of us. And if you're just going to turn away from everything in this world, it's a very difficult way to live. So, some people might be able to live like this, but for most people, treating this world as Maya entirely and having nothing to do with it is not a practical way. So, there is this world, there is another world. And that other world, ultimate reality is God, God as a person. So, that Krishna, that ultimate reality, whatever name we may refer to. So basically, if I started by talking about this fan, FAN. So now, I went from there to these four worldviews. So now, if we want to come toward this worldview of devotionalism, that when artha is taken away from us, at that time, we want to move towards paramartha. So how do we do that? How do we, okay, there is some higher reality and I would like to connect with that higher reality. How do we even appreciate that God exists or God cares? So I'll talk about two things and we will build on this in tomorrow's session. But with this I'll conclude over here that basically for us, we often see God's presence or God, that when we look at God's blessings in our life, we generally look for two things. We look for gifts in life. You know, okay, something worked out very nicely for me. You know, I was not getting any job, but suddenly I got this job. Or I was not getting cured at all, and suddenly I found this particular thing worked out and got cured. We look for gifts in life, and that's fair enough. But there is even more fundamental. There is the gift of life. There is gifts in life, but there is the gift of life. In 15.12 to 15 in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna talks about Jnana Chakshu. Utkramantam sthitam vapi bhunjanam va gunanvitam vimudha nanu pashyanti jnana chakshushaha. He says, with the eyes of knowledge, we can see the spiritual in the material. We can see the divine in this world. So basically, for us, when something good happens in our life, that's when we think maybe there is some God over there, maybe some God is there to help me. So, and that is there. But before that, the fact of life itself is a remarkable miracle. Our bodies are so fragile. Our knowledge is so finite. So many things can go wrong in the world. The fact that each one of us is alive, that itself is a miracle. If you look at our bodies, so many things need to work right for our body itself to function. In many ways, if somebody studies science objectively, we start realizing how complicated our body is. We start understanding how complicated the universe is, and so many things need to work out in such precise ways for our existence to be possible. So, in this series of verses from 15:12 13, 14 and 15. This is all chapter 15 in the Bhagavad Gita. Krishna talks about the various levels at which we can appreciate his existence. Yadadityagatam tejo jagat bhasate akhilam yat chandramasi yat jagnau tat tejo viddhimamakam. So he says that it is I who arrange for the light of the sun, by which the whole of existence is illuminated and sustained. So this is at the cosmological level. The cosmic level, the scientists have found out so many factors. If the earth had been a little closer to the sun, it would have been too hot for us to exist. The earth had been a little far away from us, again the world would have been too cold for life as we know to exist. So if the sun had been a little brighter, it wouldn't have existed. So there are so many factors involved which actually make the existence possible. So then Krishna talks in the next verse at the level of the earth, terrestrial level. Gama vishya bhutani dharayami amojasa pushnami chaushadhi sarva somo bhutva rasatmakaha. So he says, it is I who sustain the earth. So what science calls as gravity, how does it actually work? What is the mechanism for it? Ultimately, it is Krishna's arrangement. And Krishna says, it is I who sustain the vegetables. It is I who provide foodstuffs to all of you. So it's one miracle that we as our bodies are sustained by the cosmological arrangement. But the food that we need, it's a miracle that our bodies exist and nature exists where food that we can eat is there. So how does all this work out? Now we may say, I work hard and that's how I get food on my table. That's true, but our efforts are secondary. If we study history, one of the first lessons that history teaches is humility. There are rivers which can dry up and entire civilizations can disappear within one generation. One earthquake or one volcano can come up and everything can be lost. So our existence is dependent on so many factors that are beyond us, that are arranged for us. So the way food is arranged, the way the earth is arranged, and the earth's, if we look at science, we know that the earth's geographical axis and magnetic axis, they are tilted. If the earth had not been slightly tilted, there would have been no seasons. If there had been no seasons, then no plants would actually be able to grow. There would be no photosynthesis. There would not be food to eat for us. So there are so many arrangements on the earth. See, we have so many food processing industries. We don't have any food producing industry. The only food producing industry is God's nature. Everything that we process, it has to start with God's nature. So there is food producing industry. Now there's many people who are more into natural living. They say eat food made of plants, not food made in plants. So it's not just from a health perspective, it also reminds us that food producing industry, the only one is God's nature. So the gift of life itself is a miracle. And then in the next verse, Krishna talks at the physiological level. Physiological level is, he says, even when nature produces food, it's not we who digest food. It is, what he says is that, he says, aham vaishvanaro bhutva praninam dehamashritaha pranapana samayuktaha pachamyannam chaturvidham. He says, it is I who has the digestive fire. I digest the food for you. Now, the only time we think of our digestion is when it doesn't work. Otherwise, we just eat food and we enjoy life. But actually, digestion is itself a miracle. Scientists are trying to, when the body certain parts don't work, we try to create some replacements for it. And those scientists who do it, they're doing a lot of research and their effort needs to be lauded. If somebody has prosthetic limbs, somebody has a pacemaker, there's a dialysis unit. And nowadays, if somebody has cognitive damage, there are neural chips can be implanted so that people have some level of functionality. So their intelligence has to be lauded, definitely. At the same time, if so many scientists need to do so much research to replicate the functionality that is already available to each one of us, then if we appreciate the scientists who replicate the functionality, how much will we appreciate the original scientist who has created that functionality? Now, even with all that, replacing the digestive functionality is extremely difficult. Because digestion involves so many complicated mechanisms. Scientists have said if somebody can't digest food, you have to create an artificial digestive machine. It won't be a machine, it will be a factory. It's very complicated. So the point is, there are many arrangements that enable our existence to be possible. So the gift of life, sometimes we feel, I don't have this gift in life, this person is fairer than me, this person is taller than me, this person is smarter than me, and this person, whatever. We when look at the gifts that we don't have in our life, and we start thinking, where is God? But the gift of life itself is a big miracle. And when we appreciate this, then we start seeing that there is a higher reality. And that higher reality is favorable to me. That's how I have the gift of life. And now specifically about the gifts in life, when they are lacking or when they are taken away from us, how do we see that? That we will discuss in tomorrow's session. But the key point is that at the foundational level, if we understand life itself is a great gift, then we will see that there must be someone up there. Now, why might they take the gift away from me at a particular time? What is the exact reasoning going on? That is something worth questioning and exploring. But just because some gift has been taken away from us does not mean that it was not a gift while it was there. So the fact that we have it, even for some time, that is a gift, and that can at least open us to the possibility that there is a higher reality. And if what they have given me is a gift, that means that higher reality is real, and this world in which I have been given gifts, this is also real. So in that worldview, Vita Raga Bhaya Krodha Manmaya Mamupashrita, how we can actually fix the mind on Krishna and make Krishna the bigger reality, that we'll discuss in our session tomorrow. I'll summarize what I discussed today. Broadly, we are going on this journey. We are going on this journey of what we can call as spiritual growth or spiritual developing our relationship with Krishna, seeing how God is acting in our life and how we can respond. So I first talk about the overview of what we are going to do in the 3 sessions. So basically, I talked about act. A was first we appreciate Krishna's role in our life. Then we connect with him because we see he's doing something valuable for us. And finally, we target him in the sense that he becomes the ultimate purpose of our life. So in general, for all of us, the essential choice in life is we all have some artha, and when that artha is, it either turns out to be anartha because it's a disappointment, it doesn't turn out to be as good as we thought it was, or it turns out to be a devastation that is all taken away from us. So the essential choice is whether we go towards paramartha, okay, what is the ultimate meaning in my life, or we go down towards anartha. So in that connection, how do we go about in different ways? So I talked about, this was the first start. The incident was, now This queen has lost her husband, and the Lord has come in the form of a sakha, a friend, to guide her at that particular time. So the Lord is guiding her at the time of when her artha is gone to move towards paramartha. So this is where we want to go, this is where we don't want to go. And within that, we talk about dispositions in two different ways. One is in terms of, say, if I am here, there is the world in front of me, and then there is God above me. So, and the world. So with respect to God, we can have three options. Either is, what is FAN? Anyone remembers? Favorable, against, neutral, or just non-existent. These are three ways of looking at God. And with respect to the world, we talk about these four quadrants. That either this world is real and the other world is real. And conversely, this world is false or the other world is false. So this is materialism, and that is the worldview of desire. This is raga. And this is, neither world is real. Materialism is the most prominent worldview in today's world. So people can have a worldview either through philosophical deliberation or simply through psychological disposition. That's just the way their mind functions, that's the way they live. So for many people it's not philosophical, but it's just psychological, that's the way they're living. Then this is, and remembers the word for this? Nihilism or voidism. Nothing matters. This is the worldview of despair. Krodha. Krodha is not really anger, is overt. It is like existential frustration with life. This is the darkest worldview. One has to get out of it. We need some artha in life at all. Then that's the worldview of monism or impersonalism. This is the worldview of dread, bhaya. That, okay, this world is whole maya, it is all entangled and entrap me. I just have to run away from it. And then we have the worldview of bhakti, devotionalism. That is the worldview of bhava. So this world is real and the next world is also real. So we want to turn away from all these worldviews and we want to turn towards the worldview of devotionalism. This world is real and the other world also is real. And how do we turn towards this worldview? It is by observation. We observe our life and we look for God's blessings in one way mainly. That is, we look for the gifts in life. And while that is a fair enough way to look at it, but another fundamental way is the gift of life. Life itself is a gift. And that we discussed based on Bhagavatam 12, 13, 14, that our existence, for it to be sustained, there is cosmic arrangement in terms of the sun. There is terrestrial arrangement in terms of the earth existing in space and the earth having foodstuffs for us. And there is physiological arrangement in terms of the digestive system. So there are so many factors that have to work for us to even exist for whatever time we exist. So at least for us we can say that maybe there is some being up there who is watching out for me. That's how I can have any life at all. Now why would that being stop watching out for us, or why would that being stop caring for us? That's something open, that's worth deliberating, which we will do in our next session. But this is the world with this is Jnana Chakshu. Jnana Chakshu, the eyes of knowledge, where we see the hand of God in this world. And to the extent we see the hand of God in this world, to that extent we can start opening ourselves toward developing a relationship with the Lord. That key diagram is going to be the defining discussion for us. Is initially for us, the world is big and God is small. Eventually, the world becomes small and the God will become big. So this is what we would like to move towards, and how we will go in this direction we'll discuss in our future sessions. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Are there any questions or comments? Yes.
This small one, this you mentioned wheat, growth.
Raga, Bhaya, Krodha.
What is wheat?
Wheat means to be free from. That's not a word you. That's just wheat means to give up. Okay. Yes, please. Question.
Prabhuji, if we observe most of our life's motivations, they strongly come from the Bhaya, Krodh and Bhaya, Krodh and
Raga.
Raga. So, how do we keep the same level of passion when we are looking at when life is devoid of this thing? How do we direct our passion towards this real world without that attachment or fear and all those things?
Okay. Now, bhakti is not necessarily without raga, bhaya, krodha. See, within bhakti also there are many different rasas. There are the 5 prominent rasas. That is the more like they are overall nature of the relationship itself, like Sakhya, Vatsalya, Madhurya, that. But then after that, there is within bhakti also there are varieties of emotions. There is bibhatsa, there is bhayanaka, there is horror, there is joy, there is fear, there is humor. So bhakti is filled with various emotions. So that raga, bhaya, krodha, when Mother Yashoda, she has great attachment to Krishna. And when she sees Krishna high up, Trunavart is carrying Krishna, she's terrified, she's getting bhaya. What has happened over here? So there is emotion, definitely. And if you look at the Ramayana, when Ram is exiled, there is krodha in Lakshmana. This is unfair. He said, this should not be happening. So it's not that those emotions are all rejected. It is that the various emotions that we have, they are accommodated within the framework of bhakti. So for all of us, ultimately bhakti, it is also to be, it is not just devotion and peace and joy. It's a real relationship. And a real relationship has many different emotions within it. It is, say, if we decide to organize a festival for Krishna, then there is anxiety over here. No, this food has to be prepared, this traffic, this parking has to be taken care of, this has to be done. But within that, going through that emotions, our connection with Krishna becomes deeper, our absorption in Krishna becomes deeper. So the emotions that we have in this world, we try to direct them toward Krishna. And it is not that we have to turn away from the world to direct them toward Krishna. We can even offer Krishna things in this world. So when we try to do something tangible for Krishna's service, there are emotions invested in doing that. And in that way we can have emotional fulfillment or emotional energization through or within the parameter of bhakti also. Okay? Thank you. Yes, please. Yeah. Okay.
Thank you for a wonderful class. Is it correct to understand that monism has emanated out of fear and all the fears that are in this line Prabhu, they are out of that? No? Started from fear.
With respect to historical origins, it's difficult to say because the Shankaracharya started that. But it was not there are people before Shankaracharya also that philosophy was there. Shankaracharya was like a systematizer or a very prominent teacher, like Bhakti or what you call as Vaishnava Bhakti. It existed before Sri Vaishnavism, what we call it. It was not that Ramanuja started it. It existed before Ramanujacharya also. But many of the Alvars existed long before Ramanujacharya. So I'm not sure whether we could make that case in terms of historical origin that it started out of fear. But in terms of individual, there is definitely some level of fear that is a prominent emotion within the psychological genesis, the psychological origin or adoption of that particular worldview by individuals at particular times. So definitely there is fear over there. Now, this is not to dismiss that philosophy, because whatever be the emotion that might originate that philosophy, afterwards, see, the human intelligence, or there is mana and buddhi within us, and ideally speaking, the buddhi should guide the mana, the intelligence should guide the mind. But there are many times when the mind controls the intelligence, and then the mind doesn't just control, the mind uses the intelligence. So when the mind uses the intelligence, what happens is, then whatever worldview we may have adopted for whatever reason, using our intelligence, we can come up with a lot of justifications for it. So impersonalism, or even materialism for that matter, can be developed into an elaborate thought system. And when we are talking with people who are advocates of a particular philosophy, if we simply, while talking with them, start saying this is just a philosophy that has come out of desire or fear or despair, they may think we are being too reductionistic or disrespectful to them, because they may have built a whole worldview around it. And so the point is, we could definitely make that claim in terms of that, not even claim, the assertion in terms of psychologically how a philosophy is accepted by a particular person or proposed by a particular person. But eventually they can build it into a whole philosophical system where there's a lot of buddhi that is used in that direction also. Okay, thank you.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Thank you for the beautiful class. Prabhuji, you talked about gift of life. So, the gift of life, everybody is having the 12, 13, 14, right? So, sometimes...
What is 12, 13, 14?
The 15.12, 30 types
correct.
system, everything. So, since it is in abundance, then we take it for granted, because we feel that what is special that everybody is having the same, right? So, I feel until unless it is taken away, like you said, when the digestive system is not fine, then only we think about it. Or when we see people inferior to us, then we think about, okay, yes, God has given us this gift. So how do we appreciate that in our day-to-day life, in normal situations? How do we appreciate?
Yeah, it is tough to appreciate. When we talk about gratitude, in general, when something extraordinary happens, it's relatively easy to feel grateful. If somebody wins a lottery ticket, it's very easy to feel grateful. So gratitude for the extraordinary, in one sense, is ordinary. Gratitude for the ordinary is extraordinary. So it is not easy to appreciate what is ordinary. And that's why we need to do some reflection with our buddhi. That is now, see, many people like to be in touch with the news, breaking news here, breaking news there. Now we call it breaking news, but often it is news of how things are breaking down in various parts of the world. So, especially since I've started traveling across the world, I realized that so many things which we just take for granted in our day-to-day life, they're not so easily available. I was in Scotland, and there's many devotees from Ukraine had come as immigrants over there. And then they were just practicing bhakti, they had their life, they had their society, and suddenly everything is devastated. Now they have to come there and build a whole new life. There are so many things which we have, which are dependent on so many factors beyond our control. And I started going to America, and I started doing outreach to American youth. Actually my gratitude for my parents started increasing so much more. Because parenting is a very tough thing. And I'm not blaming Americans, because America is a very large country. But many times people have so many issues. Parental neglect, parental abuse. There are tamasic parents. Sometimes we criticize parents for being materialistic. But even if a parent is rajasic, if their child is sick, they will move heaven and earth to heal their child and to cure their child. But they may have no belief in God or no interest in becoming devoted to God, but still, at least they are taking care at that level. And in general, in Eastern culture, Eastern India, China, these places, there is that much conservative values there that parenting is a serious responsibility. Sometimes children may feel parents are being too overbearing, but that's one issue. But at least they're caring. In the West, it's like, I'm not against generalizing all of West, but in some of it, if tamasic parent is there, the parent is stoned on drugs, and the parent doesn't even know my child is existing. One devotee told me that his father just left him soon after his birth. His mother started taking drugs. He said from age of 5 till the age of 16, basically I was taking care of my mother. I would go to the America is a welfare country, so if you don't have a job, you don't have money, then you go to the place where the soup kitchen or the welfare office, you get a check, you get food. So now, whatever difficulties we may have had with our parents, with our siblings, there's a lot that was right in our lives. So basically, if we meet, when we just read news, we can just read them as events. When we meet different people, we just say how different they are. But then when we meet different people and hear about different things, we can start appreciating that there are so many things. The fabric of society. It's like there is so much that was right in our life. So it does require reflection. So if we have some people with whom we can do that reflection, a little bit deliberation, then that can help us stay grounded and grateful. But it's not easy. It's easy to get caught in the particular things which we want. Now we may want it even for Krishna's sake, but still we want them. We don't get them, then we get agitated. Okay. So we'll continue tomorrow, and tomorrow we will be discussing about how we can, once we appreciate that God exists, how can we start connecting with Him? What does connecting with Him mean practically? And especially how do we stay connected with Him when the gifts in our life seem to be going up and down? And in last session, it's not just about connecting, how we can make Krishna the ultimate reality of our life. Thank you very much. Shri Krishna Bhagavan ki Jai. Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Jai Gaur Premanande.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much for this wonderful session. So today morning when there was
20 copies. I need $10. $10. 12, 5, 10.
Knowledge of brain.